Alright, hey everyone. So the purpose of this video is just to kind of get us started and get us going with RStudio. And so up to this point, all I've assumed that you've done so far is connect to SLU Wi-Fi's or to SLU's Wi-Fi using a VPN, but you don't have to do that step if you're on SLU's campus. And then use the link in the checklist to take you here, which is the RStudio server sign-in spot. And so what you sign in with is just your username, so without the email, and then whatever your password is to log into Sakai. So that password should be the same exact thing when you sign in. It should take you here. Yours will probably look a lot more blank than mine does right now. So maybe yours might look something like this, but either way, it doesn't really matter. What you're going to do is go to your Files tab, which should be pretty much blank as well. You can see that I have a folder already here from a class that I did in the fall. And what we're going to do first is just create a folder to kind of store all of our RStudio stuffs in it. And so we're just going to do this with this new folder button in the bottom right hand window. And I'm just going to call it stat213. And then within this folder, we're just going to make a few little subfolders. And so we're going to make one for notes. One for projects, and then we'll make one for quizzes. And so this is kind of setting us up so we kind of stay nice and organized throughout the semester. I know it's not the most glamorous thing to be doing first, but we kind of have to get started this way. And so then within the notes folder, I'm going to make one folder called, I'm just going to call it section 0. I'm just going to call it intro R because we're really just kind of introducing R in this section. All right, and so then within that folder, no, I'm just kidding. So that'll be the last folder that we actually make. What we're going to do next is make an R project. And so this does some nice things that we'll talk about a little bit later, but the main thing that it does is it sets your working directory so that you don't have to kind of constantly specify it when you're reading in data. And so that way it's a little bit easier to read in data. But for now, if you just go up to File, New Project, we want to go to an existing directory because we just created one. You should be able to browse and navigate over to that folder that you just made, the S0 intro R folder. Choose and then create. Okay, and so now we should all look exactly the same. So we should all be fresh in a brand new R project, ready to go. The last little kind of extra thing we're going to do is we're going to change, oops, not mean to do that. We're going to change one of the options in here. And so if you go to Tools and then Global Options, and then down to R Markdown, it's already unchecked for me, but it's probably checked for you by default. So you should uncheck this show output inline for all R Markdown documents. Click apply and then click OK. And we'll talk about what that does later as well. Okay, so now that we're kind of here through the kind of boring part of getting RStudio up and going at least, what we want to do is get our data sets and some other stuffs up onto the server from Sakai. And so if you go to our Sakai site and go to our site resources, you should be able to download this little zip file, which has a bunch of different files and data sets that we're going to find useful when we bring them onto the server. And so if you click on that, it should automatically download. If you're on a Mac, it'll download to your downloads file unless you changed that by default. If you're using Windows, it'll go somewhere sensible, I'm sure. You might have a downloads folder on Windows too. And then we're gonna go to this bottom right-hand window and click this little upload button. And we're gonna choose the file that we wanna upload. And so again, it's probably in your downloads, like where mine is. And so again, it's this section 0 zip file. And so if you choose to upload that file, it should automatically expand into some contents that we're seeing here. And so we see we've got a couple of data sets in this that was in that zip folder that we now will have access to. We've got some information about your first project, which we're going to ignore for now. And we've got some little handouts that we're going to delve into right now. And so I've tried to always number the handouts to be in order. And so we're going to start with this R0A handout. That's just called Intro Graphics. So if you click on that, you should see a file open up in your top left window. And so before we go any farther, I just want to say that I know that this is potentially overwhelming, especially if you're new to coding and software completely. But we're going to take it slow, and there's no real need to kind of get overwhelmed. We're not going to talk about what all this stuff means at the same time, because that would just be terrible. We're just going to kind of go as slowly as we possibly can. One thing you could do just to make sure that everything has worked up to this point is that you can click this little knit button that has the kind of cute little knitting needle and yarn deal up here. And so if you click that and give it a minute, you might get this thing about your browser trying to block a pop-up, but if you just click try again, it'll pop up. And so that's a setting you could change on your browser if you wanted to. And so then you should see this kind of nice HTML file that came from this R Markdown file. And so you could think of these two as being one and the same. This one has code and kind of some text that's a little bit hard to read, but then when you knit it, it makes the file look nice and pretty. And this is kind of what we'll be looking at for this first section, and we'll pick up where we left off here in the next video.